brazos por yo creo que viene.
Edward Consultancy.
Sí, yes. Good.
So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Evan. Looks like she's under number 3, the take flight work with Evan Edwards. So Evan, it's all yours.
Okay, welcome to your meeting. It should go the other way around. We're going to learn a lot about each other. I know that you've had the opportunity to do this before, Superintendent Corey as well. It's delightful to be here, so thank you, President Gay and Ordinance of Steve Worcester University and Superintendent Corey for allowing me to be here tonight and work alongside Carrie. So I think we have a really good evening set for you. So we're going to do some interactions and learn about ourselves in a way that what we hope comes out of this is that you have a really good understanding of the perspectives that other people are coming from. So there might be a little laughter involved and a little, I don't know, we'll see how it goes, a little fun as far as when we go through this. So when we think about where you guys are, what I do know about Cobre, because I've had the honor and privilege of working in different capacities with you guys over the years. Actually, it's nice to hear them all. Because I think Dr. Rendon and I were part of that process years ago. We're actually going to talk about that at the end of today. But also, it's been interesting to see the fabulous community you have. You know, when you drive in, I came across the Vila, and it just, when I got here, it was like almost like coming home in a way. It's just a beautiful, beautiful area. And your kids are amazing. Staff is amazing. And they've got tons of great potential here. So everything we're going to talk about tonight is about today forward. So really keeping that mindset of possibilities for our kids, because what we do know is your kids are that intentional. And that's our goal. To make every one of them successful so that when they graduate from here, they have choices upon graduation. Whatever they choose to do, they have choices to go to college, to trade school, military, into the workforce. You have so many different opportunities with college for them to be successful and for them to feed your community well. So as we think about that, we're going to talk about some norms in this work that we're going to do tonight. So I want you to be a learner, so you're going to put that learning hat on and be present and participatory. So you'll get out of this what you put into it. Also, assuming positive intent, which I love that you have that as one of your norms, because what we do know is everybody sitting at this table has the best intentions for every child that we serve. And so when we think about that, that's the whole system. The child is our biggest customer, and how do we build that system up to be very positive all the way through? Be positive and responsive in all your communication. Listen to all perspectives. Again, tonight, tongue-in-cheek, we'll do a few things, so it should be funny as well. And then the last thing is have fun. So when we think about it, the goal is, this is the agenda for tonight, which you guys have already talked about, but this take flight work will be about learning about who we are, and then who are we as a team. And we're going to have some dinner conversations with Carrie, unpacking the strengths of you guys and the collectiveness of the board, and then shared agreements on that norm establishment at the end of the Well, that's important. So let's learn about us. So as we think about this, the first thing I want you to think about is take flight is built on, how many of you guys have done Myers-Briggs, True Colors? There's 5 million of these out there. So this is no different than those. Generally speaking, there's so many. What other ones have you done? There's Strength Finders.
I do want to bring it with us tonight. I feel like they did that in True Colors.
Yeah, you may have done this one 2 years ago with Leanne Guinea. Yeah. So this is kind of a review of that, but a new board. And so as you think about it, every time you change the constitution of the board, you change the dynamics of the board. And so again, knowing that what you want is the best thing for your kids, we want to figure out the very best ways that you can come together, getting all perspectives out on the table, and make the very best decisions for the students you serve. And so this will help you give a little bit of an inward view to everybody sitting at the table. So it's done around birds. And you know, I've done Myers-Briggs, but I always have to go back and look up what I am. MJ, LK, QRST, whatever it is. I mean, have all that information, and they're important. They're all very important. This one you won't forget. So, do you still remember yours? Oh, golly. Okay, well, we're going to keep it out of frame. I bet you will here in a minute. So, what we want to do is, first of all, let's unpack some tendencies. So, when you think about an eagle, what are some characteristics of the bird? Strength. Strong. What others? Smart. Decisive. Yeah, when they see the prey, they might squawk a little bit to get somebody out of their way, but they're fast. What else? Alpha.
Yeah, confident.
Yeah, they're on a mission.
On a mission. So when they move, is it slow or fast?
Fast.
Yeah, they're fast. Do you see them flocking together? Do you see them flying in formation? It's pretty independent. Very loyal though, because they partner for life. And so they're very loyal. So when you think about characteristics of people that might have some evil tendencies, you think about people who are results oriented. They see that bottom line, very direct and very decisive. Generally speaking, we associate it in the DISC survey, which is what this is the dominant personalities. So when you see people who are very direct and decisive, generally they're always on the move. They're moving. They have tons of ideas. They would rather work. They don't mind working in a collaborative group, but that's not their preferred way. Generally speaking, they're just always moving. So they like to be in their office, and they like to be over here, and they like to be over here. Big idea generators. Okay. Anything else? Questions about that? So I want you to begin to think about yourself. So let's talk about this little guy here. What do you think of when you see this guy?
Very talkative.
He's a talker.
He's a talker.
Big listener too, because he listens and then he's
Yeah.
quick to know.
Yeah.
Funny.
Repeater. Funny. Outgoing. You see him by himself? Usually in groups, chatting away, squawking away. You think about the characteristics of this bird, very optimistic people. Glass is always half full. Very enthusiastic, motivational, very social. They are interactive. They love a good meeting.
Yes.
They love collaboration. They love to talk. They love to also listen, as you said, and be part of a group. That could be, absolutely. Well, so how about this guy here? Dove is not a good. What do you think about when you see doves? Peaceful. Gentle. Kind. Calm.
Very attentive.
Ah, very attentive. Always looking around. Staying out of trouble. Maybe. Yeah. So really, very supportive, harmonious. They're always helpful. They're listening, and they're very consistent in what they do. So I love what you said. They're always reading the room. So sometimes when eagles get going, they're just going. They're not caring about what everybody's feeling. But the dove is surveying, and they can see right where, whoa, that was way too much. But not always quick to speak up. And so that's important when we think about this today, because our supportive people sometimes are not the most vocal people, but when we stop and ask them, they always have an answer, and they know what the feeling of the room is. They are also loyal, and loyal. They are the type of person that if you give them a task, they will have the task done before it's due, but will not go ask tons of questions about it. They're going to have it done, and it's finished. As a interactive person, I'm going to have it done early, maybe 5 minutes, But I want everybody to know what I'm working on all the time, and I'm going to be coming and checking it around. So it's just the different ways that we interact. So how about this guy here? Wise?
Stern.
Can we stern?
I'm thinking they're loud. I don't know.
Well, actually, they can be loud, but very rarely, if you hear them, whoo, whoo, sure. Do they flock with a bunch of them? You see them flying in formation? You might see them singular or with their partner again. What can they do with their neck?
Well, 360.
Uh-oh, she doesn't mean that personally whenever it comes back to something.
I don't know. I might be
Yeah, so when you think about this and the disc, they're the conscientious ones, very detail oriented. They're watching out for their prey all the time. They're watching and seeing what's going on. They're the ones that are very logical. You know, you see them with those glasses and some of the books, storybooks that we have. Very systematic. Who, always questioning the what. And what, I'll confess, this is you'll know me well by the time we get done with this. This is my least. This is where I have the least amount of influence in my personality. Yet this is the person I need around me the most in the work that I'm always doing. Because I'm not always detail oriented. I have had to be very careful throughout my career because I've had to overcompensate because I'm not detailed. My calendar drives me. I have no idea what time, date, or space means. But if it's on my calendar, I will be there. I'll be there on time. I'll be there ready to go and set. Yet, these are the people that might have driven me crazy in some ways because they're opposite from me. Yet, that's who I need to around me. So the other thing I want you to think about when we look at these is on the left, the eagle and the owl, the dominant and the conscientious, are all about getting the task done. All about the task, yeah. So be thinking about who you are, because I'm going to ask you right. The people on the right-hand side are all, the parrot and the dove is all about the people. So a great example of this is, if this goes really well tonight, that's going to be great. But if it goes poorly, if I am on the people side, I'm going to worry that you don't like or respect me. If I am on the task side, I am going to be mad at myself because I did not design a good presentation. Do you see the difference? So it's about the heart, and on the right side, sometimes about the head. So as we'll talk about today, we need all three of these in alignment. But we need to think about, you may react more to the people really wanting that respect and friendship and worrying about losing face a little bit versus, oh my gosh, I did a terrible job on that. You see the difference? That's huge. The other thing is that the top two, the eagle and the parrot, are very fast-paced and verbal. Sometimes, Gloria Rendon's not right here, so I can make fun of her. But she has a lot of eagle tendencies. She just says it like it is. She just does. That's just the way she is. But first I was like, whoa. Because there's me who just talks a lot. And we tell on each other all the time. Yet, you don't stop. So very, very fast-paced verbal. So again, think about where you are. At the bottom, more even-paced and reserved. Now, we will all get the task done, but we might get it done differently. 5 minutes before it's due, but I've thought about it a lot. Or conscientiously pacing it out over time. Does that make sense? And there's not one of these that's any better than the others. It's just different. So there's great leaders that live primarily in each one of these areas. And we are all made up of all of them, just to different varying degrees. So what I want you to do right now is just on the back of your agenda, I want you to put down who you think you are as far as put your first tendency, second tendency, and possible third. Well, just listen in what order you think you live in.
I'll bet you guys looking at it.
And then pick 2 other people at this table and just put your best guess down. You know my
Just put the name of the bird.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then 2 other people.
You're choosing who the 2 are.
With their name.
You have to share this is a little bit of guess. This is what you know so far. You're going to get a lot more information.
We might get used to it several times. But they came from the school and they were in class with 46 and so the kids are just training so they're in public school. So each school or class size is small for public school.
Is everybody good? All right, so as we think about those and we move forward, the next thing I want you to just, this again is supposed to be fun, yet it's very telling. And it's very important for a group working together, especially the vision and mission that you guys have of moving forward, is to understand yourself first. Because, there's a lot of work in emotional intelligence done by Daniel Goleman. And it's like, how am I perceived by others? Am I getting in my own way to get my point down? Does that make sense? Where people are shutting me off instead of opening up the conversation. And so what we want to do is understand who we are as leaders first, because everybody sitting at this table is a leader. The second thing is a model is just a tool for our mind. And so once we have a little more window into other people, then there's a lot more understanding of what is being said, how it is being said, and inferring from that. The other thing is any virtue carried to an extreme can become a crime, right? People can be too loud, too fast, too many things, too quiet, always too happy. Sometimes we hear that. And I love this last one. You saw this. Somebody comment on that. Anybody disagree with that?
I've experienced both of these today.
Driving in the wrong lane, I'm like, seriously?
Oh man, that's what you gotta watch out. But if you're out for leisurely drive, you think everybody else is out for a leisurely drive, and the answer is no. Or if you're late, and so there we go. And so when we think about it, we're all looking from different perspectives. We don't know what's in the head of somebody else. And so we think about this, and I love this. Somebody driving slower than you is an idiot, and faster than you is a maniac. George Carlin. So the goal is that you're going to understand the 4 types. You're going to be able to identify the areas and tendencies of others. You're going to alter your approach with others, not changing who you are, but being able to be highly effective and communicative with others. So that will improve the communication style. And I'll tell you some stories that are really true. And then we're going to be able to apply that style to this team. And we'll talk about that. The other thing is we'll tone down overuse if we see that happening. So this has been around for a long time. Everybody's been trying to figure everybody else out for years. We're still working on that with our significant other children and his friends around us. And it's nothing new. So this is just a different way to get it and remember it. So we've seen all those different ways of doing it throughout time. So when you think about it, in a minute, you're going to get your results. And I want to talk to you about them before you get them. So I'm going to take you to a page, and you're going to see 3 different graphs. is your adapted style here. So that's when I said take it from the perspective of work. This is how you're perceived at work. So this person here, you can see that the eagle at the top left, then the parrot, then the dove, then the owl. So you can see under the eagle, this is about a 60. Now that's not percentage. Don't worry about the percentage. The 50 line is important because what we're looking at is above the 50 line means this person can easily run through those 3 teams. Does that make sense? Without lots of effort. If it's below the 50, that just means they certainly can do it. It just takes more energy. So this person is 60 on the eagle. Parrot is about 88 in there. Dove is, and you can see the numbers here, not 88, 77. 55 here for the dove, and 48 for the owl. So at work, this person is pretty close to being comfortable in all of those roles. The second one is going home. We're here on the next. You guys may or may not agree with yours, but we're going to have a chance to talk about that. So this person, when they go home, they don't want to be lost anymore, right? So you see the eagle going way down. They still want to be chatty, maybe, or highly interactive, but the dove takes over at home. They want that feeling more at home, and then the owl even goes down way further. This person probably would not want to do the budget, the household budget. That makes sense, or all those details. So what the last one is your overall style. So it's a combination of these first 2. Now it's very important for you to know how you are at work and how you are at home. And this is going to be your overarching one. So what you see here is parrot is the highest. It's a big parrot. Now this person is highly interactive. Then you see a little dove. That's the next one. And there's a gap between. You may have a big parrot and a big dove. You may have a big eagle. You may have, yours will be different. But if you have 2 big birds, that means that those are right next to each other. Pretty close. Then I have, then there is a eagle above that 52. So the dove and the eagle are little. So this person, again, can easily go between those 3 in any setting. It's harder at home. They want peaceful interaction at home. Does that make sense? So I'm going to hand you guys yours, and I want you to look at your report, and you will see on the very front page, at the bottom, you'll see those, the birds. But then I want you to go, I believe it is the page, 15. 14 or 15. 15. Take it. See how well you did on your guesstimate. On one side of the center line. All right, how did you do? Look on page 15. We're just going to take that. We're going to then go to an activity. This is what it is. I knew I was. I just. Well. That's hilarious.
Mine's hilarious. It tells me exactly what
So we're gonna group up based on who you are, okay? And so we're gonna form 4 groups. And Gilbert and David, except Gilbert just left, so David, you're gonna be in a group of your own, and I'll come and help you there. So meet your eagles. Now, what do you see? You see the big E after Gilbert's name. You see the big E, the little O. That means big eagle, little owl. Okay? David, big eagle, big owl, little owl.
I had you exactly.
I got you
Exactly.
Eagle, owl, and dove.
Oh, nice.
That's what I had.
There you go. Then parrots. So I'm thinking your office is popping all the time would be what I'm thinking.
I got you spotlight.
Very good. All right. So the 3 of you guys are going to be a team here in a minute. And Abby, I'm going to come in yours because you're there's lots of doves around here, but you're the only big dove, big parrot. But what we're going to do is going to be different. Okay. So I'm going to give you an assignment. And then there's our owls, Angelina and Carrie. And I know that what you guys did before, but there's so many of you that have already done the car exercise. I'm going to give you a different exercise to do. And I've got paper over here. And we'll just put like one group over here. Okay, we'll just kind of go, and somebody can go over there, somebody can go over here, and we have one at this end of the table and one at that end of the table. But what I want you to do is I want you to chart out whether you want to write a picture, if you want to write a list, however you want to do it, of what you do when you're going to go on a vacation.
Just got that.
Have it out from the time it enters your mind till the time you execute it. And I don't say anything like that. The entire planning process, including how long it takes, what are the steps that you consider and or do along the way. Okay? And being involved in the process, all of those different things about planning a vacation. Okay? And some of the things that you choose to do on that vacation. So there are 4 of these. So what I want, let's see, who would like to stand? Probably the parrots for sure. So let's put the parrots and the dove over here. So parrots, you guys can use this paper here. Now you gotta be kind of secretive because you're gonna talk about this here in a minute with everybody. Dove over here, and I will join you. Okay, let's put the eagles down here. Well, no, I'm just gonna leave you right where you are. And owls, let's put you up down here by here. Let's look at page 15. Show you page 15. And then at the top, put your bird. Now we're going to spend about 10 minutes on this. No more than that. So y'all talk about it first, and then get going.
What is that?
So you and her? I'm gonna write on it like that.
I know. Dates. I mean,
So do we need to pick up?
what do you think?
Which is, oh, thank you. How many people?
Oh, you're just plan for it. That's right. Oh, let me see. Yeah. Hold on.
The interest. Individual interest. That way you can say, okay, I wanna go see a baseball. I wanna go to work. I wanna go on a plane.
For me, I got, I'm going to
That's a good, if you identify what everybody wants,
It's just, that's his business,
wow, wow. We went to visited the universities and museums. That's pretty cool. I got to ride the subway. Except ironically, that day, we rode the subway, people cuts are walking. And I heard the next day.
Usually all of us.
Okay, so people out there are interested.
Comfort.
Then get those put the common interests is what we're gonna try to find. So we need to list the ones, then come up with a common.
How often?
To the what? No, we all agree. But, yeah, it's symbiotic, basically. We come to the thing and we've all talked about what we want to do, and
then who leads it?
and then what?
Gets everybody going.
That would, yeah.
Take charge.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like. That's crazy. This is actually so funny.
Okay, we're done.
How much more time? Give about 2 more minutes. Yeah, put it up there and then we'll. We've already go for a couple more minutes. I'm gonna ask for the vacation and amending the budget for the parents to go on vacation.
He started doing this record. Really? Good time. We could have a wonderful time. We should be in charge of all that.
You guys might hear this from
I wanted to put, because, I mean, if you don't do that on. It'll just put a little cup on there. Go John Marguerite. Tell them to sing them.
You definitely wrote that out.
Me?
Yeah.
Always
I love it.
She has good, both. One thing.
Okay. Nice ready and down. Okay. So let's start here. So let's start again with the day coming up and talk about your trip.
Okay. So I just went on vacation, actually got back. but it's usually my family, people closest to me. Our location was determined. My partner's daughter lived there, so we went there. We also look at a budget, like what we were wanting to spend. Transportation, if we were going to drive or fly. Lodging, of course, looking at comfort because we're going to be there for 7 days. Activities and meals, kind of like what restaurants we want to go to, kind of like you guys said, looking up things. Length of the trip, we're trying to be cost effective. 7 days was like ideal for flights, got really good deal on flights. When we're on the trip, we take very few photos. We're more in the moment type of people. And then while we're on vacation, we disconnect from the real world. We call it our vacation bubble. When someone starts to say something like, "Oh, you have this going on," and we're like, "Hey, no, it's the vacation bubble. We can't talk about that. We're still in vacation mode." So
stay for just a minute. Yeah, so what do you notice? What do you notice about Dove's? That might be different than yours. Very organized plans. It's all about the family. So they're thinking about others when they start it, which you guys may do that as well, but that may be a secondary. I want to go here first and then think about, well, how did we make that fit in? The other thing that I love was in the moment. They live in the moment, and it's about their experiences together, and they take a few pictures, but everybody's in the picture. So all that family, and they're just connecting together as they go here. So lots of things that are together. Do you spread out, do things separately?
no, like when we were at the theme parks, we were all together. The only time we separated was when we had to go on a single rider line, but we were still in line with each other, talking to each other, and then, of course, after the single rider line, we waited for everyone to get off.
Thank you. Very nice. Absolutely. Okay, so let's come to the Eagles here. Y'all can talk about yours. Watch your step, by the way. David. David Gilbert.
Both of us?
You can go both come on.
That's just our nature, right? It's like, how much money do we have? Can we afford to go on vacation? And start looking at days of availability. Who's going with us and why? And then interest, or even common interest. What does I want to do? What you want to do? What she want to do? Decide mode and location, and then assign tasks. Who's going to be in charge of the car, the motel,
And then somebody gives out those orders, right? They're doing that.
The deciding factor is who has the credit card.
Oh, there we go. Now, the interesting thing about these two is they both are also big in the owls. So they actually have a budget, which is good. And so when you think about it, do you guys do every single thing together, or do you split up sometimes?
I split up.
Some go here, go there, some split. How long does it take you to plan a vacation?
A couple of days.
Boom.
That is crazy.
Gabby, how long did it take you to plan your vacation?
It was a while. I'd say probably a month, 3 weeks.
Okay. So we can go in 2 days. We got it. We're gonna pick up and go. All right. See some differences here?
Like,
Okay.
my friend came back from Boston. I told him I'm going to the Great Wolf Lodge in Scottsdale at the end of April. So
There you go.
everything's set.
Oh my God. Never mind. Those are
I have better luck at just getting up and going and do plan that out. I don't know why.
because you're neutral. You're like, let's live in the moment. Let's go. Perfect. Thank you. All right, parrots.
Okay, this is actually crazy. Okay, so first thing we said we're gonna do is we're gonna decide where we're going. Then after we decide where we're going, then we're gonna book the Airbnb.
And then after that, we're just gonna check the reviews, like what's going on over there, where do people go, where do they like to eat, and then Google things to do or TikTok things to do, like what's fun in that area, where's good to eat.
And when are you doing this? When are you checking reviews? And when are you doing-
over there.
Yeah,
they're
we're
already
When
there.
we're at the Airbnb and looking up like the local
You guys
spots.
want
We don't pre-plan, we just.
No,
Before
yeah.
the margarita or
And
after
then
the margarita?
It's before, during, and
And then put gas, get cash. That's it. And then it's go with the flow, no budget. You shouldn't be going, there's no budget on vacation. Like, you don't go if you know you don't have the money. Like, you just go.
Yeah.
And when you come back, well, whatever happens. And enjoy and have fun.
How long does it take you to plan a vacation?
About half an hour.
I was
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
15 minutes.
Half an hour.
14 minutes.
Yeah.
I just planned a vacation. We were just at the dinner table the other day, me and my little sister, and we're like, should we go see our brother in Miami this summer? She's like, I don't know. We went to Miami last summer. I was like, you're right. We should go to Galveston instead. Just us, just the girls. She's like, yeah, we totally should. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll get the Airbnb when I get paid. So I'm going to get it this Friday, and then that's it. And then we'll just drive there on the days that I get it for. And then when we get there, we'll figure it out.
My
And
husband
then when
says
we get there right away.
My husband says, let's go to wherever we're gonna go. Book a room, I'll find a room in 10, 15 minutes, and we're good to go. As long as we got a room, that's all I need. That's all I need.
Room and car.
After that, once we get there, we
That's
decide
priorities.
Cash and gas.
Cash and gas.
We'll decide this the last second.
Yay, I love it. Okay, so owls. There's a reason why I say the owls for last.
So similarly, thinking about dates, and then all the coordination of what that means. So it's not only the date for the vacation, but the dates for like the schedule for getting time off, and then your friend's schedule, and whoever's going to travel, and then if you have your family and the kids are, you know, they need to know what time they need to get, you know, tell their teachers when they have to go. So there's like dates are really important. Go ahead.
Packing. Usually I do all the packing. So that really takes time for me. So,
And what are you packing for? Because you need to dress up. Do you need to dress up clothes? Is it going to be warm? Is it going to be hot? What kind of shoes? The accessories?
You can buy it all when you get there.
and the location, we have to decide. And that for me is me and my husband. I have a Downs girl, so she would not know where.
And then we also agreed to look up the sightseeing and stuff, but like not when we're there, like before.
They have what's called an itinerary.
They're those matching t-shirt kind of people.
And then all the reservations.
Absolutely.
And we definitely make lists and check lists.
How many lists do you have by the time, I mean, really, have you gone through from the beginning to the end?
We'll definitely list for the packing.
And those are probably on the computer that you save from time to time, am I correct?
And a list to get things you gotta get done before you get out of town.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. What do you do when something goes wrong? Like when something on the itinerary goes wrong?
Roll with it. But
Okay.
There's the backup.
Yeah.
There might
Sometimes there's a backup.
Like,
Sometimes-
like we need to be out of here by 8, and like
Oh no.
no.
it's
So-
already 9 and nobody's even woken up.
I know. Exactly. That's my world.
So let me ask all of you, and just little kind of show of fingers if you want fingers. How many of y'all is the budget set and you will not go above the budget? How many of y'all budget's just kind of a rough estimate? But if you really like something, you'll put it on there. And interesting?
And the rest, just go with it.
Well, and here's the thing, did everybody go on vacation? Did everybody have a good time?
Yes.
And here's the thing, that we all have to do it our way, because that's what gives us comfort. There's not a way that's better than anybody else. And in fact, truly, I like this. What do you think I am?
Look, gas, get cash.
Pretty much. So I'm that out there person, and I love it when I go with somebody who has those lists, because then I know I haven't forgotten something. Because I'll think about things in the middle of the night and jot them down, like, nope, that I may or may not remember where I put the next day. So again, everybody goes on vacation, but these trades are really important for us to understand. Everybody still goes and has a good time, and you could have a good time with them on any of those groups.
So it makes sense then, because sometimes you go with someone and they drive you absolutely crazy on vacation because we're in a totally different mode.
Absolutely. Totally different. And so if you're like me, fly by the seat of my pants kind of, yet you have somebody that, in fact, I have a friend, total opposite husband and wife. And when he goes on vacation, if he's going to go somewhere big, he has a list from 8 o'clock in the morning till 7:30 at night, and he can't miss anything that's on that itinerary.
Failure to understand the concept.
So they have learned that they just understand each other. So he goes and does his thing, because and they'll meet up at certain points, but then others will go with him, or others will go on the kind of catch as you go plan. And that is important to understand, versus have all that conflict. And it's not that one is different, they're just different. It's not that one person is bad and the other's good, it's just they're different. And that's what we need to understand around this work. And so, Gloria Rendon and I always talk about buying a car, and I talk about going out for ice cream one day and coming home with a car, which is heebie-jeebies to my friends that are the owls. And then she's going to buy a car, but she don't want to mess with anything, so she gets online and buys it from Carvana or whatever and has it delivered to her house. Period. That's it. I know. And yet everybody gets a car. Then others, we know the process. So it's just important for everybody to understand that we're different. And so as we think about this, and hopefully we're going to have time to come back together to do some more work around this, we may do it in just a little bit. There are conflicts that come up sometimes. There really aren't conflicts. It's just we're looking at things from a different perspective. And so we'll talk about some of those, like we just talked about, what might drive people crazy about this person versus that person, when they're really just trying to do the work the way they are built. So what I want you to do is, I want you to open your report, and I'm going to give you about 12 minutes, and take your pen that you have. And for some of those that did it recently, you may have had this report, but those that did it years ago, this is a different report. So I want you to read page 17, 18, 20, 21, and 22, but start with the ones that are in yellow, which is you at work and managing stress. And then go back up to style overview, because we may not get to all of those right now, but you'll have them. So these are customized to you based on your report. Circle things that you agree with, circle things that you disagree with. So start with you at work, and then managing stress, and then go back up to style overview. So I'm going to put a little timer on here. Actually, I'm going to go back. If you'll start with page 16 first, I'm going to have like 3 minutes. So start with page 16 first, and then go to you at work. And again, what you agree with, what you disagree with. a look at all the things that we have, and I know you may not have finished that, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. But I'm gonna put you in 3 different groups, and I just want you to circle up with your chairs. So Gilbert and Gabby and Emery, I want you guys to just circle up over here. Bring your reports with you. And then Michael and Angelina and David, you guys would come over here and circle up. And then that leaves everybody else, so you guys would just kind of circle up over here. Charlene and Terry. Now I'm going to give you an assignment. Okay, here's a charity. Okay, so the so the first thing is share again what your birds are. Share it with each other.
A large parrot and a small bird. Okay.
It's pretty equally allocated.
Okay, so what I want you to do, once you get that, is I want you to go to page 16 under the Understanding Yourself, that very first thing I asked you to read. And I want you just to talk about what did you think? Did it nail you? Did it not? And then share some of the things that you were like, whoa, or whoa about. Okay? All right, so let's take about 5 minutes to do that with your group.
Myself, I have something I agree with. Make day-to-day operational decisions very quickly. So they've been doing that business for 35 years.
Mine is right on the money, which I knew it right away.
Something I didn't agree with. Sometimes however it may be necessary to tolerate some off-topic discussion in order to build a rapport.
Sometimes I feel like I don't do that, but most of the time.
Off-topic discussions led to
So you're reflective.
doesn't add value to where it's headed. So,
What's your second tendency?
I mean, I don't like discussing the topic.
That's what I was thinking. So does that make sense? Yeah.
It does.
Because then you're worried about how you sent it out.
Yes, yes, I should have. I was thinking.
They didn't take the perspective of, well, let somebody else make the decision. That would that
Very
would
well
really
networked.
make
Variety.
Think.
Yes, I am.
a lot of layers, and you gotta see how many layers you have to go through.
Feed off of them. It's not feed, I just, utilize the people and work with them.
And connect.
Network with everybody. I love to network with them.
With the ego part, that's the way that is. It's usually so high, when you come down.
Similar, like where some of the stuff I was early on.
Yeah.
So you agree with?
Yeah.
So the first part,
So that's something I
touch it just an attempt to.
So,
All in agreement with our understanding ourselves.
Is there anything that like stood out?
that's the only thing, and everything else I think is pretty spot on, but that was the one I heard.
You have mine.
At least
Oh, some of the team that realize all of the work you've done.
for us, it's
And that,
Mine says you tend not to seek direct confirmation. Jarvis is writing on the administration jobs and honesty. Because I don't do that. I don't do this. I don't do
You tend to keep myself insensitive to the rights of others. And I feel like that's something better at my job.
I can go with all those things that come like that.
I'm a teacher, yeah. And I feel like that's
So,
career, think about my work thing. I'm good for calling out my work.
So when you finish that one and you keep talking about that, I want you to go into your strengths on 17. Talk about the strengths that are listed on 17 with your group. Strengths that are listed on 17.
So, and this is straight, so be a strong business.
I just on the type
In
of
my role
stuff
now, as a project
wasn't
manager,
expecting recognize.
say that's job.
Yeah, that's right. Meetings.
Any alternatives to read. That very much is it.
I just started.
And that I
Other strengths? You're able to find the students to negotiate quality control. Whether use your imagination to take calculated risks and develop solutions to problems.
So your mind is always going fast, 99 miles an hour.
There's time for that. I don't remember how I got from her either. Just I do like that. My mind was my meeting starts at 5:40, 5:47, 7:30, 8, 9.
Sometimes there's just a lot in 1 minute, or like in 10 minutes. Then we get it.
I know.
If you're really, if you're not giving attention, I'm going to credit for
Most of this is good. This is most provided only good to important classes, but by considering something pitfall, I haven't really been sensitive to anything in there. To you people there. You're really thinking I struggle with this verbal skills.
when stressed, you may withdraw from others and become indecisive.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. Especially people and those that are project examples and others. You retain a high degree of accuracy while keeping the design project development. It's true to a degree, but then
So coming back to the design types, very detailed.
you know,
How hard is it?
we're just unintentionally.
Yeah.
It happens in this.
You always have it.
Yeah, an excellent considerate and analytical listening style. That's true. And tactful explaining ideas.
Yeah, when you get done with that, then go down to you at work, and then finally managing stress. But talk about these, because it's really important to unpack some things.
Excellent and are very good teachers. Here's on the key. There's all of those organizations. Just being teacher is very trustful. I don't think that's it. Not high, that was just all this stuff about
The sense of competition and urgency.
Looking at work, it's something that just is my nature. People has to understand work.
It's true.
Right. And
together for yourself and others, which goes back to the urgency comes when I screw up. Yes.
It's also a danger.
Because there's times I do find myself go with me like this. Yeah. There are times when it will say that I'm over. But just that's my husband always tells us, because we always talk about work. And it was just something small. Actually, today, since
Oh, this is back. We have to put your eye on the organization. Oh, no. Something about how we like your thoughts. We like your workspace to be neat, organized, and I think that it's just space. I did circle out because I'm like really, I would like that, but it doesn't happen. Yeah, I think you should just.
Yeah.
That's one thing we're
Here.
And right now, people walking around this day, they're making it all this fun. I'm just so grateful for
Yeah, stress and
you never get it.
Ladies, provide new sudden shocks and for crisis. Totally, I prefer that. And I've had so many positions where that's the exact opposite of the situation.
Yes.
So I'm like, I don't think I've been able to articulate that before. But yeah.
Projects that are it's always networking with others. Yes, is a bigger thing.
I have that too. Workplace are relatively free of personal hostility. So
You don't.
so this one I know is close knit with people with whom we develop mutual trust. I really like that. Yeah. And I
Yeah. We'll see.
So anytime someone's like,
Yeah, it's like the sourdough part of that.
The starter, like, there's the places where you can take your sourdough when you're on vacation. So it's like taking care of. That's while you're on vacation. Like ordering
I wanted to talk
something.
about another man.
That's there it is.
when emotions are high, you're projected data Italians.
Okay, pull it down.
Change the vibe.
And so the last one, I think you guys have had some really good conversations and you've learned some things about each other. The last one I want you to think about is high level of trust right here. Is looking, and we talked about emotional intelligence, and that's our ability to see how we're perceived by others. So when you look at page 21, I want you to, and some of y'all may not have gotten to this part, I want you to talk about stress and how you might appear or show up under stress. For me, when I get stressed, I get really quiet. And Katie, bar the door. Because I've got to think through things before I open my mouth. Because if I don't do that, then mine says you're defensive. Really? Hesitant, timid, passive. But those are some things that I come across with. But talk to your partners about how you might appear when you're stressed. And see if you agree with these or not. And then below that it says under stress you may need, for me, relationships. I need to understand that the relationships that it's solid even though I'm stressed and have something to say. And reassurances that I'm liked, because it's all about everybody's like me, 'cause that's me. And personal assurance that it's okay. So those are just the things I need, but how do I do that? Defensive. That's my go-to. So talk with your group a little bit about that. Under stress, you may appear and say if it's right or not. Talk with your group. High level, it's right.
And I don't know.
Yeah, well, you don't have to mark it out.
Yeah.
I need to get rocking.
Those are what you're talking about, these here.
I just mark those off.
Overeager, yes. Because I'm just like, trying to get the job done. I need to do this and this. I'm trying to call them. We need this. Mr. Crazy on the mountain. That's stress.
Well, so that's stress. So it's like how you find it or can't find it. And then what do you do?
Conference tends to live in its
And then I was irritable at times because I
situation
expect it
has
to happen.
7-year-old and an
3 months and I brought it to them. Just stressed and what think.
a lot of indifference.
Those two.
Not that reactive to anybody else's stress. Disagreement. Indifference. Okay, somebody said that. Is it right or is it There's a lot of
Bless you.
there's a lot of areas where people work at different levels of knowledge. And whenever my level is low, then I'll expect my participation to be that high.
I guess maybe
It's not something people are comfortable with.
you want to make sure
I don't know.
before I make a move, yes. So probably I overthink it and overread stuff. And then resistance.
Okay.
And I'm stressed.
So thank you for being vulnerable and talking about that. That's kind of fun. Now I can be defensive if I'm under stress. So what I want you to do right now is just go around and say something positive that you've learned about each of your teammates right here. We'll take about a minute for that, and then we're going to do one more activity. So something positive that you've learned about each other. So, Gilbert, you can start. Just go around, Robin. And you can start over here.
Oh, just
And then you guys. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah. So like Gilbert's going to say something that you've learned about you, positive. Yeah. And then over here, out loud. Out loud. So everybody share it. So everybody gets them out loud.
So we're gonna share just with each other?
Just
or
with each
everyone?
other.
Oh,
Just
okay.
with each other.
like, I know.
Right now, just with your team. Sorry, I didn't make that clear. Yeah.
Well, I just immediately just feel comfortable with you. With you, your smile is just so bright, and it's like very so the energy that I get from you is just like, and it was nice to share So just yeah, you are never done that, so that was really nice to share that information. And it's like you're just
Umbrellas in the snow. And we almost had snow.
very kind.
Umbrellas.
I know. I remember that. Like out of the ordinary. And you were in and I said, adios. No one can hear me. Did you come? I said, because I told you. Okay, there you go. That was it. Yes. When was this? And yeah, that's still like
want you to. What I want to happen is I want my eagle group over here. Over to the camera here. I want my owls in that over there in that little corner there. And I want my doves over in this little corner. Your big one, the first one. And then over here I want my parrots. Right, Daddy. Let's go over here.
Okay.
Yeah, so y'all are gonna go over here and, well, you can go this kind of to this part of that. Now, we have a really unique situation because both of our eagles are also very conscientious, right? So let's kind of move you guys down here a little bit, right here. Because that makes a huge difference. And so I'm just gonna go around the room and you tell me if this is right or wrong. So I didn't need to drop everywhere. These two gentlemen here have ideas coming out all the time. They don't shut their brains off, but they're also very logical in what they think about because they think about all the steps and they ask the question, why? Lots of times when we're dealing with very conscientious people, they're the ones that are saying why all the time, which sometimes drives other people crazy. But they're not doing it to be a pain. They are doing it because they really want to understand the why behind the situation. So we've got a lot of why people here. Once they understand the why behind the situation, then they're your first adopters and they will sell whatever it is that they understand. Does that make sense? But sometimes we just ask why a lot. They are also fast, high flyers. These guys are running all the time, correct? From the moment you get up till the moment you don't need to talk to anybody else because you're talking to yourself all day long, right?
About 70, it's slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah. Over here, they are thinking all the time, but they don't talk a lot out loud. They're going to wait, hold back, and then say what's going on. Especially right here, because we are also right here in the middle between the owl, the very conscientious, and the dove. These folks here, it's all about everybody else first. So she's very organized, has lots of lists, but it's about everybody else going at any given time, asking these two people right here how the feeling of the group is, what's the pulse of the organization, they're going to know. Am I right? They're observant of everybody else, but they're not the first one to throw the idea out, generally speaking. And so, again, they're loyal. They're going to get everything done on time. They're going to be fully prepared for everything that's coming up. And they're going to have thought through the processes, but they're not always going to be the first ones to speak. So at times, it might be very important to call out and say, what is your opinion? What is your thinking on that? Because, and how's the group doing? Because they're always going to know. Did I miss anything?
No.
Miss anything? And then over here are my people. And a lot of these people are also right here. So not only are their brains going 90 to nothing, the difference is sometimes it's coming out of their mouths while they're thinking it. They tend to be out loud processors. We tend to speak while we process, which is never going to happen over here. You guys will you'll have that in your head talking to yourself. We're going to talk it out loud over here. And so when you think about that, sometimes we just need to say things so that we begin to understand them and put those pieces together. Now, argue with me if I'm not right on this. They also have a need to be heard as everybody else does, but they are also very creative, out of the box thinkers. And so we need to honor that. These are the people when you really, right here, the eagles and the parrots, when you need all those brainstorming ideas, they'll just give them to you 10 for 10 minutes. I mean, they're just going to go, not even nothing around it. They are also great at selling the organization. In other words, they're going to always be talking about the great things that are going on here, out loud and verbally. And they don't mind getting up in front of a group. And that's interesting because some of us are not as comfortable as others, but we don't mind that social interaction outside. So if I missed out on anybody, so sometimes we get driven crazy, right? And sometimes we have differences because of who we are. So if I were to start here, and I know you guys don't want to talk, but what might drive you crazy about parents?
They talked to me. No, not really.
No, it's true. See, she's got that joke going on, not really. She's what happens? They talk a lot.
Just kind of maybe the overly social part when this owl over here or owl dove over here is like, I'm not a part of, I don't want to do that.
You want to get to what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, or just kind of like retreat and kind of figure out my thing and do it and then get focused and then maybe I can socialize better.
Yeah. And what sometimes drives you guys crazy about house? This is not personal, by the way.
I know.
Just fun.
That's your turn.
A true point. So when you need their opinion or you need input from them, you're not gonna get it because they're not gonna wanna see you.
Ooh.
And we're like, come on, put it on the table, let's talk.
Well, here's the difference between these two. So these are opposite. Is that whenever they come to you and they, like, for example, if Mr. Corey gave an assignment and you worked on it, he would never have to check with you. But you will have done, when you bring the report, number one, it's going to be on time. Number two, you will have researched the heck out of it without talking about it to anybody else. And so you have done all the homework to ensure that this is correct. Is that right? Whereas sometimes, I'm going to speak for myself, I need some interaction. Somebody gives me an assignment, yay, I love it. Boy, I'm going to be talking to people about it all the time. You like this? Is this a good picture? Is this good? And I will not have done the upfront research. I'll get the research done, but it's going to be done over time. They won't speak about it first, but they are doing it. Does that make sense? So if I'm going to question something, I better have my ducks in a row. True? All right. Very good. Okay.
This is my comment I make about this group over here. They don't speak often, but when they do, you better pay attention because
That
they got
EF
something
Hutton,
profound.
or y'all are so young, you probably don't know what the EF Hutton was. So the EF Hutton, yeah, making sure we have it. Okay, now I'm going to ask you a really hard question because you're so kind. Okay. So what drives you crazy about eagles who aren't really over there?
Their lack of just being results oriented, not having that personal aspect.
Because they're just going, I need to know.
Yeah, they don't. It's like they don't care about people. It's just like I want to know the end result. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get that end result. And if people are impacted, it doesn't matter. That's what drives me crazy.
You know, what's interesting about that, and let me ask my eagles this. When you have is that the way you want to come across at all? No. It's all about the task.
Yes.
So what happens sometimes when it's all about the task is those of us who have the heart big thing over here, the people play, the people side, then we can't get past that. But the other thing I want to ask about, if you guys have a disagreement with anybody, I'm sure you never have had a disagreement with anybody. When you're done with it, are you done with it and you don't go back to it?
Move on.
Me, on the other hand, I can remember 35 years ago exactly when and it might even have come up a few times during that time. Do you see the difference? Because generally when there's a disagreement, once it's done and resolved, one way or another, then there's not any hard feelings. But that's hard. But it is hard when we've got high flyers and they're speaking loud and they're going fast because your brain never stops. We talked about that over there. Your brain is constantly engaged and you're getting it out. Does that make sense? All right. And so what might, again, opposite on the sides of tendencies, what might be hard about the ducks?
It depends on, I think, the scope of what is being looked at. If it's one that is substantive and it's really difficult to understand, then that engagement between speaking something out of what you already know, which you have experience of, doesn't carry the weight. It's more like it's pushed back, and that makes it in my trait of not being that overly sensitive about different things. That strikes discontent and maybe question of what it is I'm doing, whether it's right or wrong. And that's one of my tendencies as an eagle. I think I have fair impressions as to whether what is right and wrong, and what has an impact. It's not a matter. I think some people say, well, how does it affect people? I'm not really that sensitive to it. I'm sensitive to, is it right or wrong? Is it substantiated? Is it? I don't want to build a model that fits everybody. I want to build a model that does what it wants to do.
But when you work, and as you work with a group, understanding that other people are coming to the same conclusion, but they need to do it a different way. And that's what this is about. And some of us just knowing that, making sure that the table stays open for debate and not closed for debate. And understanding that sometimes we have to temper messages all directions. I mean, because over here we got to speak up, because sometimes we don't want to speak up because it's all about the hard thing. But over here we need to also think, okay, wait, I need to come back and I need to reframe this in a way that we all keep the dialogue open. So this is it's a hard thing to do. It's very hard to do. So thank your little team here, and come sit down. And hopefully we're not done with this work. We can continue to look at it over time. Because what I want to show you, there's a lot of work for us to do. When you look at yourself as a team, look where you are. All of you guys fit together, and that's all of you guys fit together. What a beautiful team. Look at the strengths of that team. We've got everybody around that 50 mark, which means that we don't have an extreme. Does that make sense? We don't have an extreme. And so that means that together, working on the strengths that you've now uncovered even a little bit more, you're going to be able to find better solutions to things and understanding maybe why somebody's reaction is one way versus another reaction the other way. And so when you look at it, look at this. We're all over everywhere, right? So that means we're different. That's the beauty of this team, to be honest with you.
But even within oneself, I mean, I would look at this and say, ooh, maybe there's some bipolar medication.
Well, but here's the thing. Because some of you guys are quite different at work than you are at home. Quite different. And why is that? And then we come to the center in the other work we do. And so that means that we can adjust ourselves as needed for the situation here at work. You guys have some great tendencies on this team. You've got some great attributes across the team where everybody's voice can be heard. But now you know a little bit more about how everybody's voice needs to be heard. Does that make sense? Because sometimes we've got to make sure that everybody is speaking up. Because nobody's voice at this table. This team of 6, well, 7, you guys need to make sure you get everything out on the table so that we can make the best decisions for the students that you're serving. And knowing that some of us are more reserved than others to get it out, and others of us can be loud. I can be loud. And so when you look at yourself, we're not going to do this right now. We're going to get down to. And hopefully we'll have time to come back. But here's where everybody lives in this group. And then we're going to go, I'm the one standing between you and that wonderful, delicious dinner over there. When you look at this, the primary style is at the top. So eagle would be the big eagle, and then come down, and we've got owls. So we've got, maybe on the mark, we've got both of you guys an eagle owl. You see where that is? And then you can see parrot. We have a big parrot right there. And then Charlene and I are here. So you can see how this works. And, oh my gosh. Sorry. I forgot. I didn't get everybody else on there. I will put those on there so you can, well, that's terrible. Sorry. I thought. But again, going back to that, in the center, that is where your and I promise you're on the other one. I don't know what I did there. My fault on it. So what happens is when you have a well-rounded team like yours, it is highly functioning. Because if you had a team like this, where you have high eagle, high parrots, with you've got that owl in there and that dove, what does this team look like or sound like? What would be happening in a team that had this makeup? Loud, it would be very loud.
Decisive, results oriented.
Could be a lot of conflict. And how is that dove feeling?
Left out. Sad.
Yeah, frustrated, right?
But quiet.
Yeah, because it would never, no, their stomach is up in knots and would probably never say anything. Yet, do they have something to say and offer? So again, when you think about your team, you're very well balanced. What would happen if you had a team like this? Look carefully.
Divided.
Really heavy on the side of like emotion and goals.
My word would be diverse, and that has pluses and minuses.
Diverse is great, which is what you guys have here, but a more rounded diversity. What's missing on this one? Or what's heavy? Let's go with what's heavy. Yeah, eagle and parrot, again, are very heavy. So in this case, the owls, you would need to make sure that you've got a process in place to hear what that thought process is. What about here? This one's coming from got a lot of thinkers going on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, not a data.
Okay? And I heard Marty say quiet. Do they have much fun?
No.
How's that parrot feeling? That's not gonna be your ideal working environment, right? Yeah, and then the same thing here. Like they would be having no fun. But in this one, how's that eagle feeling? What would be happening?
Probably drinking.
Well, we might have a little analysis paralysis, right? Would we be making a lot of decisions very fast?
No.
Not having fun. And that's why everybody's important. The eagles keep us moving. The eagles keep us going. They keep us, again, sorry, I didn't get everybody on there, I'll put that down. The eagles keep us moving. They also keep us on track. That owls are critical because they will have thought about the whys. You know, if as a administrator and leader of a district, as a parent, I thought we could do anything all the time. So I might tend to stack too many things on the plate, and I needed an owl and a dove to say, let's think about this. That's too much. Because as eagles and parrots, we think we can do anything. And we think we can get it all done. But what we don't realize is we have a whole lot of other people that are not owls and parrots working for us who need more structure. So we have to be very careful. Every one of you guys has a huge part on this team. And again, I cannot think of a more balanced team where all of you are, when you go back to the team dynamics, right here, are close around that 50 mark, which means you guys can be in each of those areas at any time. So, with that said, we're gonna close this part out. I'm only 5 minutes over. Sorry, I apologize for that. Great job though. So I hope you guys are all taking at least 2 or 3 different things, and we'll brief that at the end. But I'm gonna turn it over to whoever's in charge of.
We'll have to go in the serve themselves and then come back and get started. Or
Great job.
how many minutes do we really want to take?
And there's so much information in there. We can come back and finish and do a lot more work around it.
Do that. So if we can quickly serve ourselves and come back and maybe we're gonna have conversation while we eat. Yeah.
The lasagna and bread are against the wall on the table, and then the salad stuff
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. So please keep enjoying your food. The conversation that we get to have, and it really is a conversation, this is all you all speaking much more than me. So a couple questions that I want to throw out there, and then for people to just openly share. When we make any kind of decision on our lives, be it professional, personal, to move, to not move, to retire, get a job, whatever, there's a why, right? And there's the internal why that's like driving that decision. Even if sometimes we get into a situation or we get into a job and then it's like, why am I doing this? You know, we even probably asked yourself that question. Why are you going to do this? So there's the internal why. And if we're doing something that we really believe in, even though we really believe in it, sometimes we can forget that initial why, that North Star. And it's okay, that's the human part of it, right? But it's helpful if you can get back into be reminded of what is that driving force, what's that core belief, what's that value system that drove the original choice. And then, so the why of, in this particular conversation for us today, your why of serving on the school board. Some of you are new, some of you are veterans, some of you are kind of in the middle. So I care about that. I'm curious to hear about that because I don't know most of you very well. So just out of like curiosity and I'd like to get to know you better. But also, especially it's like the end of the school year. All kinds of things that have happened throughout the year. It's like, what is that internal why? And then there's the external why, because you all have to get voted in. So there's the external, like what are your relationships, what are your constituents that voted for you? What is your external why you're doing this? The things that you talked about to promote your community members that brought you voted you in or trusting you. So those are the two questions, the internal why, the external why. So what I'd like to do is just open that up and we'll go around and share that. 2 or 3 minutes each, you know, we don't need to run on a time constraint. But just sharing that openly. And I've got post-it notes. So at some point, you don't need to write it all out, the whole thing, but just a few bullet points of your internal why, external why. So we're going to start there and we'll see how our time is. Does that make sense? Is that clear? And you can take a little minute to think about that if it doesn't come to you straight. Now, why am I doing this? I could be going on so I'm just going to go around
Oh, oh.
Too late.
Got some carrot and
Why my dad made me lunch every day when we were in third grade because it was kind of like hanging out when my mom was at work. And today, I woke up as soon as he had eaten lunch, I packed it, and then he didn't. And then they were serving something gross in the cafeteria. I'm like, this is like the worst
I
Monday
know.
for me.
Me too, I was like, oh, why are you eating on the cafeteria? That's the worst, those hamburgers.
I texted my dad, I was like, just to have you know, I'm going to have to eat chicken and cheesesteak for lunch.
That was
I haven't done that.
So anyone eager to start first, or do you want me to volunteer? Who's gonna go first? How about you?
Internal, external. Internal for me, heavily involved in youth sports, from soccer to basketball, baseball, at the youth, at the high school level, and then also at the university. I work for the Western in a different capacity, but still involved with the kids. You know, I mean, they're still kids to me. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
19, 20-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
It's my internal drive, and I've got 7 grandkids in the system.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's a drive for me, and I feel that they're very successful and motivated, stuff that they're going to be motivated.
So are you coaching as well, or you're just
Yeah, with,
participating?
I coached from 2006 to 2010. Won a state championship in 2008 with Cobre baseball. So that kept me motivated. I did youth baseball as a coach at the senior league level in the first couple of years, and then went to the senior league, and we were very successful there. So I just stayed with it.
So that passion is part of your drive and how you wanted to serve on the court.
Yeah, that's part of that. And then both my daughters graduated with honors. One was president of NHS, the other was co-president of NHS. So that was a motivator. So like when they're at that level and they graduate with honors, it's like we did our job. Right? We did our job. So, external. First of all, I was appointed as our board. I had been what's the right word? Disengaged or
Dissolved.
dissolved.
Dissolved. There's
Dissolved.
only 2 of us. And so he got appointed by the governor and the lieutenant.
Oh, I see. Secretary of Ed.
Yeah, secretary.
I can't remember his name, he's from Los Alamos. Steiners.
I mean, the lieutenant governor called me because of my involvement with the youth, and there's a motivation behind that. And would you be interested? And so you don't have to tell me right now. You have to sleep on it, give it a couple of days, and then, of course, lieutenant governor in his capacities, he's a driver. He called me the next day around noon. It's on the weekend. Like, what you get your thought? Did you back over with your family? It's good.
And how long have you been serving?
It's in July, it'll be 3 years.
That's a pretty decent reason to have an external drive. The lieutenant governor's calling you.
Yeah. And Howie was the head coach when we won the state championship in 08. So it's kind of really, my passion for being around the youth. And that's what it's all about, the kids. It's all about the teachers. I mean, yeah, they're at the end of the day, they are.
Hey.
But but I want to see the kids succeed. I didn't have the grandkids in the system. And next year I'll have a senior, and I'll play football, and I want to send me to his games, I'll guarantee that.
You guys want any people to jump in?
Yeah. A family conversation.
I always talk about this stuff with my family. So I got appointed to the board, shortly after David was on. I had been a teacher in the district, worked out at Early Elementary. And I decided, I'm a teacher, I love being around kids, and that I have this opportunity, again, to serve in this kind of capacity. But I attended a program called Emerge New Mexico, and they train women, Democratic women to run for office. And I had attended it, like maybe 8 years ago, and I didn't have any idea what kind of office I would run for at the time. But it was like an 8-month program that I went through. And so I thought, you know what, maybe this is the sign I've been waiting for. I'm gonna throw my name in the hat. And then the board at the time appointed me to the position. But I think one of the driving forces for me, like I said, is as a teacher is the kids, and then being an advocate for teachers, because I really struggled when I worked in the district with the lack of curriculum and lack of having a voice in the process. And so that's something that I was really proud of as a board that we've done, is involve teachers in that process of curriculum. And I have a really unique perspective as a teacher serving in this capacity. And then I also did a fellowship around education policy, and so it just opened my eyes even more to wanting to do this at the local level. So that's why I decided to join the board.
So kind of an overlapping since two having kind of overlap with your internal and external practice. So there's that personal piece for you. As the teacher, and then your personal experience, with that. And then your professional training. Sort of like, how can I take what I learned and apply it in this way?
It's kind of interesting because you need to ask me. I told you I'd never walked out of San Lorenzo Airport, and because it was just an amazing little school where we were doing amazing things. But I don't know, there was something in me that said I needed to do something different. And the district was kind of struggling a little bit, and I felt a need to help. There was that need of like, I gotta go help. That was literally the words I used. I gotta go help and make sure that we're, because there's a love. I have a love for the district, the people, the community. And you don't want to see it fail, or you want to see it go in a bad path. And so that's what really kind of got me started in this direction. And then you get unique opportunities, we call it standing in the right place at the right time. Just being willing to say, yeah, you can do this. You can work this out. It's not make a difference. I'm the same. You're a kid. What can we do to make it, make the experience for kids to be amazing, and for them to set them up for success? And that's kind of the big picture we run on all the time. It's like, what are we doing to do that? That's kind of what got me to where I am. So I think that's the internal piece of more just feeling that I was really that's all about the need, and I said, I need to do something about it. So, because I had it made. I call San Lorenzo a dream job because I'm small enough that you can fix things happen really fast. So that's, as a leader, that's a great place to be. Yeah. And so it's a, you know, it was a great little community and they're very supportive. So that moves very quickly. And that's exciting. Because the bigger the organization, the longer it takes to get some of those things rolling. But the smaller, you move faster. That's what exactly.
Yeah. So I was a teacher in the district before. I had left and now I'm just down the road. And where did you teach? And then there was 2 positions that were open on the board. I proposed to try it. I didn't know because I had just left. I mean, like barely. And then it's just talked to my friends about it and I thought, like, this place will always have a special place in my heart because I graduated from here, I went to school here. When I was in high school, I got really sick. And I was sick for a long time and I'll never forget what not just what the school did, but what the whole district did for me. Like, I'll never forget people wearing my favorite color, I'll never forget people bringing food to my parents. I'll never forget all the teachers that donated my mom a entire year's worth of leave so that she would never have to go back to work so that she could take care of me. And just all like the love and support. And even though where I teach is just down the road, it's very different. Because here it feels like a family. It does. You just really can't explain it. And I knew that I always wanted to stay involved here because I love it here and it has a piece of my heart. So when the position on the board came up, it was like more internal. Like I can do this for my community, for for the kids, for the people. And I thought that a teacher would give me a different perspective. Being a teacher and a board member are very different. And I think each of them made me better and better. And so that's kind of how I got on. And then I guess why I stayed on is because I can see us little by little getting better, contrary to what everybody else says. But from the time I started to now, I can just see how much better things have gotten and how much better I feel about where we're going. Oh, and then just kind of this by the way, guys, I got in to the doc. Yay! So in the interview, like, after this, I'm going to be a doctoral candidate. I'm going to be in Cobre in the fall.
Wow,
to get my PhD. Yeah, and so my mom and dad were like, what are you going to do? Like, my dad's like, are you going to quit the board? Do you think it's going to be too much? And my mom's like, what are you going to do? Like, do you think you're going to be able to handle working and being on the board and being in your classes? And I just told my mom, I was like, I'm just not going to give up on the board. I just can't. Like, I can't give up on it now. Like, I'm going to keep going. Because I see us going in a positive direction, and it may be very stressful. I might be stressed. I don't remember what my stresses are, guys. You see me acting that way, but I feel good amongst all of my fellow board members, and I see us all in our own way wanting to do what's best for the kids and what's best for the district as a whole. And I want to be around for all of it, to see all the positive things we do. I really believe we're going in a good direction. I think there's a lot of areas where we can improve together as a whole. But it's nice to see how far we've come and want to be a part of that.
I got, there was 2 positions like Emery said, and so the board put me in. My internal was special education. I have a daughter that's Down syndrome and we struggle with the school and getting her what she needed. So that's one of my reasons. And going on further, I've been looking into see if we can open a business for these kids that they can work after they graduate. I did talk to, and you know her, I think of her name, She does advisory, Chris Debolt.
Yeah.
And she gave me some names to look up, see if we can open up a little business for these kids to work in. So, let's see how that goes. That's mine.
And I am an employee, so I started out as an office secretary, the district secretary when I first began, and then there was an opening for the executive secretary, people interviewed and gave me the position. But the real reason I started working was because all I ever read in the newspaper for the prior 5 years before I started working was make it offended. And I knew a lot of people because I am born and raised here in Grant County, so I know a lot of people. And I'm like, this can't be true, but so I said, well, I'll put it for a job and see if I get it to try to make a difference in the district. Because like David, my kids were born and raised right here from Cobre, now my grandchildren are here. So it's good to see. You still always hear the negative, but when you're working from the inside, you see all the positives that are never spoken about, and that's the sad thing. Is that there's just so much good going on in this district, and that's what keeps me there. Is the good and seeing everybody trying and working together. And I don't know. I just think we're like everybody says we're going in a good direction, a positive direction. So that is what I
guess the story starts when I left the mines. I went to grad school, to the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. From there, went to work afterwards, and I came back to try to find a job here. That didn't happen, so I went to California. I started working at the Auditor General's office, which works for the legislature, and we did performance audits of organizations that were in trouble. We never got a place that was running really well. We were always sent to the ones that they knew had problems. But we would write reports on what was wrong, make recommendations on how to correct them. And this would be in areas that we were completely unfamiliar with when we started an audit. But by the time we left there, we would be talking to the people that we are talking what it is that was wrong, and they would agree. And then after that, I went to that office closed for 6 months, which I couldn't afford to wait for the 6 months. I went to work for the Employment Development Department, and that's where I got exposed to the school career. And I worked in the governor's task force to make an application for the school career grant that was coming from the Department of Education. And we got $25 million to do a planning grant. And after a while, during my careers in California, my dad got sick, and I made a decision to come back. Knowing that I would have a regret if I didn't, so that had to happen. And I came back and worked there. That was not a good experience. But anyway, ended up with my getting remarried and having kids, and then my kids going to school, and it was not good. It was not good at all. Matter of fact, it was one of the reasons I ran for the school board was there was a lady that a friend of mine, and she was a real big advocate for the students as well. And in Central, she had gone to the restroom and there was feces on the walls and everything of the restroom. And she made a complaint, and day after day, and nothing was being cleaned up. The newspaper came out a week later. It was still there. Nobody was doing anything. Nobody was being held accountable for anything. And so that's when I decided to run for the school board. It was a horror story.
Can you elaborate on that? When you decided to run for the school board, because you were like, oh, this is a problem.
Oh yeah, I didn't run because it was good and I wanted to contribute to being good. I wanted it fixed. And the school board at that time consisted of two particular people, the president and the vice president, that had been on the board for 30 years. They had a superintendent that worked for them, no doubt about it. was no curriculum. There were many classes that didn't have any curriculum. Some didn't have books. A lot of them had things that they copied. We were in New Mexico. We were last in the country, and still are. We rated out of the 88 schools, we rated 64, and it goes throughout New Mexico. We have the highest amount of per capita incarcerations. We have not a very good economy. Here in the hospital that we had, it was one time an acute hospital. Now it's urgent care hospital, which is not really a good thing. The university is shown to not do very well, and our local government, like the previous hospital administrator and the previous county manager, each left with like over $1 million, and that was just wrong. That's illegal, but it was okay. It was okay, and things would come up in the paper, make the headlines, and then all of a sudden they're forgotten. And the newspaper will tell you they're not an investigative newspaper; they're just a small town newspaper. So when I ran, my first 3 years were being in the minority all the time. At first it was just me, and then finally I had Dave Holguin, who was also on the board, would side with me, and we realized what was going on. And I went through so many different things that I ended up. I got sanctioned by the school, by the board, and I had to decide whether I'm going to spend money to fight against the sanction, or I'm going to recall the 2 board members. And so, if I did the sanction, I would still have the board members. The problem still exists. So I went after the limited pool of money. So I went after the board members, and they resigned the day before the actual trial of the recall was to be scheduled in court. Well,
So you have witnessed a lot of.
it was we did an audit, an external audit, and it very well documents the things that were going on. We just don't release it yet, which is really problematic because people have the perception things are okay, but there is a lot of that was found in that audit has been taken care of. But the layers underneath still exist, and they're still very active.
So I'm thinking back to what you said earlier about how what's really hard for you is like between the right and wrong, because it sounds like you've witnessed a lot of wrong.
Yes.
So with your interest in like, I want to run for this board and I want to be fixed, that's your internal way. So what would you say would be kind of your external of your continuance to serve on the board? How long did you serve?
This will be 8 years. This is the 8th year.
Okay, so I mean that's 8 years is a long time. So what would you say is your continual?
I had hoped that I would have to run again, that I wouldn't run again, because I hoped that there'd be the direction that I would be one that it wouldn't reoccur. But right now, I think that the environment is almost the same as when I first walked in. And
So you're still committed to that?
so I'm still committed to that. And it is one of the bright parts of it. I think the biggest part is the innovation part, where we're looking at career pathways and work experience for students going out. And there's some element of that that's still strong, and it's mostly at the high school. It's not here, certainly not here. And it's it has a long impact as far as it gets moved down into the middle school and then into the elementary school. But the vision of it, I think, is very positive, and it's something to hope for. It's still something I hope to strive for, but there's too much politics other than that. But yeah, by far.
Thank you. Your background too. So Doug, and what you're saying is a perfect segue. We've got about 15 minutes left. To my next two questions, and don't forget your bullets of your internal life. My next question is like the same format. From your perspective, what do you feel is a strength that you have that you're able to bring to the table as a leader, and a strength and an area of improvement for yourself, and then also collectively, what's a strength that you observe as a collective board, and a collective board and an area of improvement? So when you do have your bullets of your whys and strengths, we'll put them here on the four strengths that you bring to the table as a board member, and the strengths of the board member as a whole. Who would like to share first? And I am keeping an eye on time, so if I have to politely interrupt anyone to move forward, I'll just politely do that.
Can I take the eyes?
The owl status? As your strength? Yeah. What particularly about the owl part for you that you feel like is the asset?
Reserve and listen.
Fair enough. Absolutely. That can be a strength. Do you have a part of the owl that you feel would be an area you would want to improve in yourself as a board member?
Be a parrot.
Be more of a parrot? Yep. What about your observation, strength and area of improvement as the board as a whole? From your perspective.
The ideas of everything.
Is a strength. Bring that one. An area of improvement.
Speak up more.
Be a parrot. But if you like looked at the board as a holistic whole, what would you say is the area of improvement that like together? And if we could do this together better, I think that would be great. Are you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I can come back to you.
Okay.
Charlene, what about you?
I think my strength is I'm supportive of everybody. I'm supportive of board members, of my boss, coworkers, parents, and students. I get to go with all of them, and I love them.
Wow, that's big. And what would you see in your professional role? What's an area of improvement you can go?
That's a hard one for me, sure. Corey can tell you that. What I need to improve on this, Corey. Nothing.
I'm not second guessing myself.
Yeah, that's one thing I do always do. I told her that. Especially when I speak, I'm like, oh, I should have said that better.
And you shared that when we were working together, so.
Yeah. each other. At the end of the day, it's like about respect and professionals. But I think as an area of improvement, we can work better as a team, but stay positive. Seems like we always start our meetings positive and always end in negative. And I'd like to, and I know there's gonna be negative, it's to be expected, but not assuming the worst or thinking that people are out, to get us. And I'd like us to continue to stay positive and just not always assuming the worst. Like we want, when people tune into our meetings, we want them to restart positive, and I'd like to see us into positive. And I know there's always gonna be room for improvement and that negativity, but that it's not so overbearing of our meeting. That's one area of improvement I think we can do better on.
What about for yourself as a board member?
I think more probably like the results oriented part too, because I am all about people. And so being able to make that distinction.
Strengths and areas of improvement.
I think there are areas where I'm very concerned about. For instance, we've not turned in an audit to the state in 4 years. That should be criminal. And by all standards, if we haven't turned in an audit within 1 year, we could actually have the board replaced by the Department of Education. But that evidently hasn't been one of the big focuses. But not having, so financially we can't say, oh, we are. We can't say we have management of that because the reports haven't come. We haven't gotten like the capital asset survey, inventories. We don't know. There's so many different elements of that that are bad. Then there's
I'm gonna cut short because I'm just noticing that time I've got 9 minutes left.
okay.
So what I'm hearing you say is an area of improvement for the board is really staying on track with these like required.
Basically, we should do what we're here to do, not just sit down, be happy, go home before dinner. We should really be, are we managing our finances? Are we believing Title IX? Have we even come close to conforming to that requirement? Where's the safety issues?
Tracking those
And
requirements.
and being transparent about, if we haven't turned in our audits, we can't build a new school, although we're eligible for that.
And what's a strength that you see as the board as a whole?
It is better. I mean, when you take a look at it, it's much better than what it was. Teachers are happy in the classrooms. There's much better going on. The education is going better. Still some safety concerns that are still looming, but curriculum is out there. People have their books. They have their tools. There is a movement. The grades went up recently substantially. We had as much as 30 and 40% improvement in reading and math. Math is still our biggest challenge, but in reading we really had some leap forward.
So what about strength and area of improvement for you as a board member?
I don't know how. I mean, I communicated the need for the financial controls, the financial accountability, and it's gone by the wayside. It has gone completely by the wayside.
So you're wondering about your communication style as an area of improvement?
No.
Is that time frame?
No, I'm wondering of how the indifference there is to the areas that are catastrophic. And we have all read the internal audit report that was done on the special audit.
But I think we're getting back to our strengths and improvement
It
as a
is,
person.
it is. I know you say this all the time, oh, let's look forward. We should be looking forward. We should be taking those things and finding out, but some of the people are still here.
So I'm going to do that politely because it's interrupting things. So what is a strength that you see within yourself that you bring to the board?
the part about accountability
Accountability?
and measurement.
Okay, great. David, you're writing, I'll come back to you.
No.
Okay.
That's my turn. Ladies first. But
Which one, the board strength or mine's?
Start with personal, strength and area of
Personal?
improvement that you bring to the board.
For me, when I was on the board, I wanted to go visit the schools and interact with staff, with students, superintendents. In my life, I borrowed an 18-month-old, and kind of my life is upside down now, so I haven't not made the time. For me, I need to do that.
So that's an area of improvement that you want.
Straight for me, I think that we listen to our administrative staff, and I mean, I was at year 2 and we don't have a curriculum. We haven't had one in 10, 15, 20 years. So we gave them the tools and gave them to be able to get a curriculum that they wanted, not something to just shut down and say, you're going to use this curriculum. Something that they collaborated and they went and got it. And just based on the number that we see on the board meetings, it's working. Board strength, I personally like it. When I came on board, it was myself and Gilbert and 3 women, and they all educators. Right, so Serena, Elizabeth, and Spaghetti. So I really like that. I don't think too many boards in New Mexico have that diversity. So I like it. I think it's good for business, my opinion. Room for improvement, again, working together in board meetings, and we start up strong and stickers off. Audit committee, there's room for improvement there. The finance committee, there's room for improvement. More involvement from myself as well too. We had a committee member that was very strong for us based on certain situations, no longer plan, but I think we need to just continue what he would bring to the table.
Nice. All right.
I'll go first, it's on the last one. So my experience, I think, on the board is when I take Blair, I really get along with patient, like to listen to everybody's ideas. I'm patient. Workplace too. And then some of my improvements, I think I could be less talkative, less parent. And I think that I could spend more time like reading policy or getting myself on board business and things like that. Which I do try to like dedicate some time to the board, but I definitely spend more time dedicating my time to my position on the board. And then for board strengths, I also put diverse. We're all so different, and then I put different personalities. Because, I mean, as we saw there, we're all different personalities, and I think everybody has their ideas, and we share those things different things that each of us care about. They're different, and that's really nice to hear. Because I'm like, oh wow, I never thought of that because I was so weird about this. So it's really nice to hear like everybody's concerns and what they're passionate about. And then for improvements, I put that we could collaborate better, that we could be more positive. Because I think sometimes, especially when people come to the meetings with negative, like nobody ever comes to the meetings and has anything good to say. But like maybe once the whole time I've been here. And then it kind of like, maybe puts us down in the dumps or for lack of a better word. And I thought we could also be more open-minded with one another and each other's ideas. And then something that SBA or President BA and I learned at our training was that you also need to know when to stay in your lane. Because you as an individual have a lane, the board has a lane, and we have a lane too. And that was something that was really important at the training we went to, is knowing your place and knowing what your position is on the board. And then that knowing that, like, basically on your own, you're like this, but only when you're together as a whole on the board. Makes sense.
Julia, did you come up with a?
No, I'm still
strengths, I always say there's so many different perspectives, and I think that's great. There's always somebody who'll bring something I can thought about that. So I think that's a strength. I think the other thing too is goals. I think everybody has the same goal, and I think it's just improving education for students in our community. If we back it up to the simplicity, I think that's it. An improvement, I think we definitely work together better. And I think being a united front would be that, it's okay for us to disagree. That's okay. I think sometimes there's a time and a place for that, so we can disagree, but I think when we are out as a board, I think we should be a united front.
Right. And that's what I agree with you.
We're united front for 30-some years.
But it depends how you look at united front. There's different united fronts. That's what I'm saying. There could be your united fronts of, they say that it was good, but it was bad. And this one, I think there is two different united fronts.
So maybe that's one conversation that's so great as the board, in addition to the administration, to define, well, what is our united front? And having that defined together. Well, anyway, our family dinner hours completed. Thank you. Thank you all so much for sharing and just being honest and authentic. And, so some of you got in your places of great. I'll be putting together just kind of a summary report, and I'll be highlighting this because there's, and you might hear it as we're talking around the table of themes, and I hope you were able to hear that too. I wanted to help, I wanted to fix it, I cared about the kids, like the themes that are like this place really means a lot to me, and I want to give back. So the theme of like caring and being a part of in a way in which you use your voice to support and advocate and be able to do something that you believe in. So just some of the things that I heard as you all were sharing. So I really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.
That was really interesting. I love that.
No, God,
I can interrupt anybody on the
you need one.
No.
You were taking notes.
I was taking notes because because what we want to talk about now are your board norms. There's so many great things that you guys talked about, which again is not the difference that you bring to the table brings everybody's different perspectives to the table, which is what you need to move the district forward. You all said there are things that are better, that we're moving in the right direction. You talked about the student successes that you're having. You talked about the community coming together. You did talk about issues that we need to shore up, absolutely, that we need to be in regulation and policy, and following the law of the state. But also you talked about the want to come together as a united force for the students. And we all come from different perspectives of that. And I heard the words advocate, I heard the word building a business for our kids in our community that we need to have in our community. From now on to where everybody has a place. We talked about that amount of education in this room, that we've got so many specialties and different experiences that bring a rich vastness to this group here. And then you also talked about the amazing special communities that you moved all the way back from California, and that you've been here forever. The community came and wrapped their arms around you as you were younger, and that you've come back to serve all of this time. Same over here. I know that was part of your MO too as you came. So when you think about that, I think pointing everybody in the right direction is really following your strategic plan and those goals and the vision and mission that you guys have. And so when you come to meetings, so eloquently with these 4 norms. And so what I would like to do is talk a little bit about these norms and see if they're still the same ones that you want to use or if you need to change. But what comes to my mind is defining what these mean. Because this was by a different board made these. And I don't know if you guys talked about the meaning behind the words or not.
It wasn't a board discussion, it was, the superintendent came up with them and then gave them to us, and then we just continued reading them, adopting them. It wasn't a board.
It just came, well, actually, I think it was Kane, I think you were there when we did these.
Yeah.
Years ago. Yeah, we did go through the process to get these. But what I'm saying is if you don't know what the meaning behind the words when they came up there, then they're pretty meaningless. And so that's the whole point. So when we always say actively listen to all perspectives, what does that mean?
So, for example, on that one, can we put a bullet underneath it and say, this is what this means? I mean, if we don't change.
Absolutely. One of the great practices that are done around norms a lot of the time is that not only do you read it, but you state what's the meaning behind the words. So for example, actively listen to all perspectives. For this board, it means that when somebody's speaking, that I'm going to stop and listen. And what listen means is I'm trying to put everything out, including my opinions. Whatever it happens to be, is what I'm saying. But it's about defining a word for the board. Because that can mean something different for you than they could be for another. Does that make sense? And it's about understanding as a board, what does it mean? Because if you're, I have to tell you a story. It's funny. I was in Arlington when I was deputy superintendent there, huge district in Texas, and we had a cabinet meeting. And I don't know if you guys remember chairs. That was all. So I got popsicle
Been there,
sticks.
actually. Yeah.
So I got popsicle sticks and put Norm's picture on them. Put a map for everybody at the board in our cabinet meeting. Because as you can imagine, all my flyers moving around, we all have to pin them around for right all the time. But we had norms. And what would happen is we would lift up a norm and somebody was breaking it. But we understood what the norms were. So it was funny over time people started just lifting up the norm and they were breaking it. Because they knew they were breaking the norm. But truly, and I don't know that we will be able to finish this today, but let's start. Actively listening to all perspectives means what? Open participation. What does that mean? Or what do you want? Because there are words right now, and obviously they might mean different things to different people.
I think that's one of the less problematic ones. Actively listening to what other people have to say is very, it's a deed we should be engaged in all the time. Otherwise you don't, if you block off what the person's saying, how you present yours and expect to be listened to in the same way.
And I'm going to challenge that just a minute. Maybe we'll do a little exercise here. Because what to actively listen truly means, I'm not formulating my answer to somebody else's talking. And that makes sense. That's hard when you're attentive. And I'm a trained coach. I get it. It's hard for me to stay fully engaged with what somebody's saying without wanting to tell an autobiographical story or telling them that I have a better answer, or it's listening from the perspective of the person that's talking. It's not listening. And that's it. There's some great exercises around that. But to your point, it's listening, and it doesn't mean you have to agree with it. It's just trying to see through the eyes of the person that's talking what their words mean as far as their thoughts.
And if you look at the opposite, that's headed in the wrong direction. I think that's a good standalone for me.
I like putting try in front of that. Try actively listening to all perspectives. Because like you said, can you truly just be there without making an assumption or thinking the worst?
We're reading it to the public. What do we say?
What are we really, actively listening to all perspectives? And we're not thinking about already other things like Evan said, we're already thinking ahead 5 steps, or we're thinking about how long this meeting's gonna go, or this person won't stop talking, or how can we move the meeting this direction, things like that.
We never think about how long the meeting's gonna
I mean, we talk about it, one of the ultimate goals is now and get better as a board, but instead of having 2 meetings a month, you know, go to 1 single meeting a month and see if that was
possible.
What Angelina brought up, I think, is completely missing, and that is, these don't engage the public, and they don't inspire the public to speak to us. As a matter of fact, when the public does speak to us, we read them a template that says, you know, you can't cuss us out, you can't do this, you can't do this, we'll call the cops, and, you know, you could go to court if you say something that, you know, we don't like, and yet we're worried about not getting attendance, we're worried about people not coming forward and speaking politely or supportive.
But as a board too, we adopted that policy that's what the language we wanted to also protect us. Because I don't think any one of us wanted us to be cussed out or negatively attacked.
But it's condescending to tell somebody you can't cut us out, you can't call, you can't say bad words. If they're not intended and that's not part of the character,
I feel like our public, and I don't want to get away from what we're doing here, but I feel like people are heard when they come to our meetings. Even in a meeting we had where we didn't have a quorum, there was still two parents who were able to get up there and deliver what they needed to say in a way that they needed to say it. And it wasn't, it's about decorum. I think it goes back to that.
They were very respectful, and they still got their point across. They still addressed their concerns. It was very appropriate, but they were definitely heard.
do you think that letter, what we read before they send up there serve a purpose? Or why aren't they that way?
I mean, what if we encounter someone that's not?
Then you deal with it. And that's why people.
But that's why we have board policies that cover that. And that's an agreement we all came to. Because I feel like we're beating the horse right now because it's already been established and we already have this process in place.
Well, and here is it, and I'll just kind of move us on here. Because regardless of what you're saying before and parents are speaking, is to intently listen to their words. And what we do know, research shows, what's the percentage of body language that's communication? The least I've ever seen is 83%, or 80%, the highest I've ever seen is 93%. And so intently listening means eye contact, it means watching the words behind the word, the actions behind the words, and trying to understand their perspective. I remember as a principal and at central office, you know, I would have people before me who were so angry about something, and I would listen to them, and I would say, you know what, if that's what happened, I'm going to be as angry as you are. Let me go investigate. Because there's always 2 sides, or 3 or 4 or 5 sides to it. But I listen and I would investigate, because if that's what happened, I'd be just as mad as they would be. You know, so many times we hear one side. But it's understanding the moment that we're in. And so actively listening to the perspectives is, we may have differing perspectives, but wait, let me listen to understand the why. And again, you've got to have some decorum. You also have to have some limits around that too. Because a parent can go in and orate for a long time if I needed to. But again, what does this mean to you guys? If I were to say, define it.
I think it means you want a homogeneous group that is gonna come together and all stand behind one principle or one objective. And I think that is not necessarily the thing. I think we ought to be able to respect the difference. We ought to be able to respect that there are some people that are, well, we ought to play our role. And if we can focus on just staying within our role, I think that would be very helpful. It's something to say we leave the meeting feeling united versus we leave the meeting feeling we're meeting the responsibility that we're supposed to have.
Well, and so I'm gonna challenge, is it permission to challenge?
No.
No, I can't challenge. I'm listening. In that, I don't think, I don't know. I've not heard anybody say we need to be a homogeneous group. And I think everybody's perspective makes us a heterogeneous group with a diversity. But leaving united means that we've accepted what's gone on at the board meeting. And if we made a vote on something, that we're leaving, understanding that that's what we're moving forward.
Yeah, it's just a part of, close the loop, responding to concerns and questions as a unified board.
Well, because we haven't even gotten that far yet.
Yeah, that's number two.
Mr. GT person is skipping down. But you see the conversation that's needed on active listening to all perspectives. And so again, norms are only as good as the paper they're written on. And if there's no meaning behind the norms, does that make sense?
You hope they're better than the paper that's written on.
Much better and much deeper. Going back to that understanding of each of you guys, because you don't know what close the loop responding to concerns and questions is a unified board, what the discussion behind that was. And that's why revisiting norms often is imperative. Does that make sense? Yeah, so as we think about that, let's see how we've got 10 minutes here, so we're gonna have to come back to this, because this may be something that you guys really want to continue the discussion around, because once again, how do you want to operate in board meetings to get the things done that we need to get done in a timely fashion, but also serve the community that you guys are going to serve?
And I think that's really important to say something that, we are there to be the representatives of the community. Not as ourselves, as individuals, but to be representative of those people that have put us there. More importantly, the kids.
Also knowing at the same time, which I'm assuming is number 3, model of professionalism we expect from all members of the district and community to also be the role models for what it is we want our community to do. But again, these are discussions that cannot be had because you see what we just did with active listening to all perspectives. So there has been a lot of discussion about lots of different things tonight. And I don't want to leave tonight without going around the room and thinking about and hearing from your perspective, what have you thought about differently tonight because of the work that we've done? And we've scratched the surface on several things. But what an opportunity with amazing people to move this community forward. Continue, we've all said we're moving in the right direction. Double-digit improvements in academic achievement, that's not happening across the state. You guys know that?
40% improvement, that's like.
And you're thinking about those people, it's the people of the community that are getting it done, and the passion you guys have, and the passion your staff has, and the kids that consume it. So I want you to think about, we've done a lot. Carrie took us through this beautiful exercise here. We've learned a little bit about each other. You have a wonderful handbook here to continue to look
Last
at.
time they came with a binder.
Sorry.
Here's your binder.
There you go. But I will send them, I'll send them to Charlene and give them out to you electronically too. So you can have the electronic. But hopefully this work is not done. We just scratched the surface of all of this for the greatness that it can be for Cobre. You guys have had schools that have been at the top of the list. And that's where you want to be all the time. And so that's the goal of working together. So everybody need a statement about what you've learned and you're thinking about differently as you move forward based on the conversations and discussions tonight. So everybody gets a vibe.
And I've had a similar thing, just to coincide with what you're saying. Yeah, I would just considering that too, like a takeaway, one or two takeaways from today, and then if you're, what's something that you would like to see differently, or in addition to something like, area of improvement. wanna write it on your agenda and leave your agenda, you can do that, but I mean, I'm interested in hearing as well.
I mean, just for me, a takeaway would be to have 3 times a year board retreat versus one time per year. And just to make sure that we're in line with what we want to do going forward.
Like a spring and fall, or even like a quarterly.
And I know it takes away from family time, but that's what we signed up to do.
Kim, any takeaway from just the discussion and activities?
I'm just listening to some of the stuff, like, you know, when we plan stuff, some of the different things that cross people's mind. You know. So I know if you do that for our vacation, what are you doing when you're getting ready mentally to come to a board meeting? Right? Because we already know the agenda, right?
Right.
Yeah.
This is totally at me, David.
Huh?
I said this is totally at me.
I guess the takeaway for me too is being able to see it from someone else's perspective. Like, for instance, with Angelina, I know she never speaks up, but I never knew like the amount of research that you do. Like when you talked on the phone and it's been one-on-one, and you said, "Well, I found out this and I found out that," and it's like you're a wealth of knowledge, but you just approach it in a different way than I approach things. So remembering that about each other, that we have our approach is different.
For me, I think it's just communicating with Mr. Ford, because he's the one that's driven to do all these projects with the school and improving the school, which he hasn't. That's my just Mr. Ford and see what's going on, and maybe bring it back forward. That's where work sessions. I don't know if each one of you is different on work sessions, what you think of work sessions, but my thinking of work sessions is read the policies, what do you think, and all this stuff. I mean, reading it together would bring us more togetherness. That's
I don't necessarily think policy should be our main focus, but we can have other, like, I know Silver does community presentations or grant opportunities that are available for the schools, or like council and governments. I think that I like that idea. Or like this business idea you had, I didn't even know that this was something you were interested in, about having students have a business. I'd love to hear more about that. I have a friend that's actually starting that in San Andres, and I can give you her name and contact information. But I didn't know, and I'm so glad to hear that you have a passion project, something that you're excited, looking forward to.
Well, this came up. Do we have time?
Probably not.
Not.
This
This came up because I'm in the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, which is Chris Bivalt is in, and that's how it came about.
And see, I didn't even know you were a part of that board.
Mhm.
So
I'll shut up.
You're going to carry on us.
Our comfort zone.
Next time, I guess you're gonna be a parent.
Broke the shell. We broke the shell.
I think my biggest takeaway was seeing the background from everybody, because I think I had some like ideas of what everybody was, but they're different areas, and how people were stronger in different areas, and kind of connecting that to how they are on the board. Like, are they more reserved? Are they outspoken? Are they always thinking, planning ahead? Which was really interesting to me. And then seeing how strong we were all together. Like that's, I mean, before when you talked about being over 50, and then when we saw all of us all together, we were all over 50, which means we are a strong board. There's a lot of priorities here, and obviously areas of improvement. But that was really neat to see.
see that we are strong in all of our knowledge and experience and personalities creates one strong unified board. And I guess one area of improvement, I guess, would be trying to do this more to where we can like unpack the norms or talk about things that are important, impacting the schools, impacting the community, listening to things that are important to us individually, because I feel like a lot of the things that like are important to me that are happening might not be the same as David's or as Gabby's. Like some people are more passionate like about the behind the scenes or what's going on, and just being able to talk about like what's going on and what we care about and be able to fix those things along the way.
I'd like to second what you said in terms of the work session, as well as you in terms of having sessions like this. But I do think that the work sessions, and instead of having like the sessions of this, have strategic planning, and let that still continue to be a focus on our purpose, and we'd be able to see our dynamics and kind of get to know more of our personalities when we align them with the goal. The other part too is the work sessions. It should include policy. It should include the kind of stuff that we don't necessarily like, but we need to get out of our comfort zone because those are essential. If you don't have a foundation, and these are the foundations of all organizations, it's going to crumble.
So a lot of good things have come up, and again, getting your minds going around new and different things, but also understanding, just like you guys said, the team is strong. So how do we capitalize on that in ways that you can move the district forward in ways that it needs to go? So you're aligning those arrows, which may be heading all kinds of directions now, to how we pull it in, knowing that it takes some time to get there. So I'm going to go back to everyone Gene's group and say,
I don't think so.
Yeah, something in. Yeah, some parrot. Anyway, it was
No
a
parrots.
delightful
There's no
evening.
parrots.
Yeah,
I think it's coming out.
yeah. I didn't look at these two right here.
I know. See what happens when they sit by us? We're over here smothering her, sandwiching her.
So, thank you,
What for you?
thank you ladies, thank you Evan
Thank you
for
so
the
much.
great, take flight, putting us through that process. Carrie, thank you for reminding us of our why.
The family dinner.
Yes. Charlene, thank you for the food. Birthday party.
All the work.
And Caitlin, thank you for staying. I know it's been some long nights, but you pushed through, so thank you so much.
I really like
Just part of the job.
staying on task, staying on time. I got 1 hour to eat and talk, and then my time's up, and because we could go off on 10, we leave until 10 o'clock.
But we are here till 10.
And just thank you everyone for actively participating, and I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment. We have a second. Okay, we are now adjourned at 7:02 p.m. And I will see you all next Monday for our board meeting that was changed.